A two.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Dad. All right, so welcome to Three Dads Who Talk About Bluey, which is the only show designed, I hope it's the only show, designed to have one and only episode ever. But yeah, man, we're going to talk about Bluey. So let's first just go quick introduce ourselves. Real quick, Robbie, would you introduce yourself?
Yeah, Robbie Miles, dad of 6, Bluey aficionado.
Wow. Yeah. I'm Ryan Clover. I'm dad of 4. I mean, a 4-year-old.
Of a 1 4-year-old?
Dad of 1.
You want 1 4-year-old?
And I'm a big Bluey fan. In fact, I even one time found myself watching Bluey by myself at night before I went to bed.
I've definitely done that. So I'm John, dad of 4. Well, okay, I do have a 4-year-old, but also I have an 8-year-old, a 7-year-old, and a 1-year-old. So we've been watching Bluey. I think we picked it up in like 2019, 2020, like around COVID, because funny story there, just to kind of set us off. So we watched Bluey so much in 2020 that my 7-year-old at the time was 3, and he wasn't getting out much in 2020. There wasn't a lot of like preschool and that kind of stuff happening. And so we thought he was developing a speech impediment, and we took him to a speech therapist because he was talking kind of funny and weird. Like a lot of his words just sounded weird. And they were like, she was like, do you watch a lot of like foreign television? And we were like, because she was like, he actually just has like a colonial British accent. He's just like a 3-year-old living in Tennessee. Because we were watching, so we were watching like, you know, Thomas the Tank Engine and Bluey and like, and you know, so he's fine. There's no.
Oh, good.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, I would love to start asking each of you. I don't think I'm the host. I don't know. Is that okay?
Yeah.
This show is.
We're wearing the shirt.
This show is sponsored by Bluey. We'll send you an invoice. But Robbie, would you share? Why do you guys like Bluey?
Oh, honestly, the best part about Bluey, I mean, it's for everybody.
Yeah.
Dads, moms, bingo. Everybody gets something out of it. But more than anything, I think that as a show, it actually brings this empathetic side. That so much TV is just, you know, flashes and, you know, this immediate action. Whereas Bluey really connects and helps kids kind of think through whatever they're feeling. And the parents do such a good job. But it's not like overly emotional. Like sometimes the dad, you know, he's still like, yeah, you know, whatever. I'm gonna just lay here, you know, and they jump on him. And, you know, it's fun.
No, I totally agree. What do you think?
Yeah. I think it helps kids, like, well, my kid especially, like, just work through like boundaries around like what's too much play.
Yeah.
Like, and what's you know, what's appropriate. It helps me also. It helps me think about like how can I create scenarios where like we're getting really wild, and then like how can I show when that needs to be like calm down a little bit, you know. But I just love the humor of Bluey.
No, I do too. I love the humor, playfulness, but honestly, I think the whole show just demonstrates a lot of emotional intelligence. Yeah. And I don't mean that it's like a family of like, we've all been to therapy and they're like just like perfect. It's like, I think the show writers do a great job of just saying like, even in the moments where mom just needs 20 minutes, you know, like, and it's just like, and it's like, do you hate us? It's like, no, mom just needs 20 minutes. Like, just, or the dad just like working through all, and the kids too, just like teaching the kids like how do you deal with your big emotions and
like the episode where like Bluey convinces Bingo to like spend the money on the thing, you know, that she doesn't really want. What's that episode?
Dance mode.
Dance mode.
We just watched that like 3 days ago.
Dance mode was our favorite episode for a while. You know how you got to watch these things on repeat so many times.
It helps that they're 7 minutes long. So
it does, yeah, and also like the one where, you know, they go to the beach and, you know, mom is having a hard time like relaxing. She's I'm not ready to relax. I'm not ready to relax.
I related to that a lot. I had struggled. Did you guys struggle to relax on vacation at all?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And she learns from the kids. Yeah. Like, this is how you do it. And so, like, that kind of stuff. Like, there's that emotional maturity that you're talking about.
Yeah. The beach one reminds me of, I don't know what it's called, but there's another later episode where they go back to the beach. It's towards the end of the latest season. And, like, you can tell, like, the dad bandit is just kind of, like, out of it. Yeah. And, like, I don't know what happened. But, like, he's just kind of, like, out of it. He's a little zoned out. He keeps, like, zoning out in the distance. And she's like, let it go. And he's like, I just, you know, you can tell it's, like, some kind of work thing or, like, something that he's just, like, still, like, upset about. And so it's just, like, again, it was, like, a really very relatable moment of, like, I have been there. So
On the flip side of all
Yeah.
that emotional stuff, like there's still this like pure joy and fun
Yes.
that
Yeah.
the dad so often just leans in.
Yeah.
Like the kids want to do something and he just leans in, and the whole family ends up leaning in.
Yeah.
Like the toothbrush
Yeah.
is stuck to the floor and he's like brushing his teeth on the floor, and it's like, it's this sense of spontaneity and
Yeah.
fun where they're leaning into each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which for my kids at least, we're like showing them that there's these relationships that you can have. Like it doesn't always
Yes.
have to be rules and you know everything there, but
Yeah, no, exactly. Yes, big fan of Bluey. By the way, like, so I have an Australian client, and so when I met him, like, he like jumped on the coaching call. I was like, dude, like Bluey, and he's like, what? That's like a really common nickname in Australia. But like, what are you talking about? I was like, you don't have any little kids or grandkids. He was like, no, they're all grown. I was like, okay. I was like you don't know, like everyone I know in America is like obsessed with Australia right now because of Bluey, and he's like, okay, it's a cartoon show about talking dogs. I'm like, yeah, when you put it that way, trust me, it's great. But I want to actually introduce a controversial take on Bluey.
Oh.
So there's a guy that I really respect, and his name is Jeremy Pryor, and he runs an organization called Family Teams, and they do a lot about like just like reintegrating like what's the role of the dad in the modern family and the mom, and like how do you have like a family team, but you understand your role in the team. Usually, a lot of stuff I really like and I agree with. However, I'm going to read to you what he said about Bluey. Here's the name. His article is called "The New Ideal Father is the Traditional Mother."
Ooh.
Exploring the symbolic father from the hit TV show Bluey. I won't read the whole thing, but he said, as the Western world catches collective amnesia around the profile of the historic father, we've begun to move past portrayals of fathers as the bumbling idiot of shows in the 80s and 90s to a new kind of engaged, empathetic, and present father. There's only one problem with this new ideal father. He embodies almost all the elements of the traditional mother, purged of the essence of the elements from the historic father. The poster child for this new depiction can be found in the mega popular kids program Bluey. The dad Bandit is seen as a constantly nurturing, always present playmate to his two daughters, Bluey and Bingo. He's so present, in fact, that fans of the show often joke about when Bandit finds time to work, and in the show it's clear the mother has less time to play than the dad. Our culture loves this depiction of fatherhood because it empties the father character of all the elements of the traditionally masculine father we've grown uncomfortable with, and at the same time it provides freedom for the mother to get out in the world and explore her individual passions. Everyone wins, right? Well, it depends. It depends on whether there's an objective ideal of fatherhood and motherhood, and if there is, then symbolic depictions seeking to reverse these objective profiles become problematic. And he goes on in the article to say that he sees that in the same way that like sitcoms used to like present the dad as like a prop, where it's like you would just like he was never a main character. Like in kids shows, most parents are just props. Like they're just like they're in the background. They're not really part of the show. It's like they might have like a line or a scene or something like that. But he argues that what they've done is change the dad from a prop to a toy, and that now it's like that's not. So you guys thought we were just like hanging out and talking about Bluey. I had like this like hot take I was going to introduce.
I know.
Yeah.
I dig it.
Well, this is the point in any
So please respond.
situation where you have to introduce conflict.
Yeah, I can introduce conflict.
Because it keeps it interesting.
Yes.
And we can kind of have some kind of discovery around it. So
What do you think about that?
I mean, I personally think that it could just be reading into it too much. I mean, I think we could take any situation and we could be like, oh, it's so significant. It like symbolizes this, this, and this. It's a great conversation starter because I think it's a good question of how much of a playmate should a parent be for a kid, and is that setting them up to be resilient in their ability to play by themselves?
Yeah.
And that's a conversation that my wife and I have all the time.
Yeah.
Because I play like Bandit. I'm all in. I work from home. I run a creative business, and so for me, I go like from working, slamming my head into like a writing project to being like, okay, I'm gonna go get into like the heart space with, I'm gonna go into like my Bandit zone, and honestly, that recharges me for my creative work in a huge way. I come back like, either exhausted or like ready to go, So, but I don't know. I think it could be like reading into it too much, but I think there's some legitimate questions around, how much do we play with our kids?
Yeah. I don't know. That's good.
I understand what he's saying and why he would say it, but I would actually punch back on that a little bit and say Bandit is fulfilling that role of traditional father.
Yeah.
What is the traditional father is the more like playful one, the one who's doing the bigger things, and the traditional mother is actually more the nurturing piece of that. And yes, Bandit's nurturing, but that's because he actually understands himself. And it's more, I see it where he's almost this more like kind of wisdom piece. And so that really does capture that authentic masculine role model. And I think that's why so many dads in particular connect with Bluey because, you know, they may or may not have had that. And they're like, oh my gosh, this is something for me to live up to. And he's not just a toy.
Yes, I completely agree, for the record.
I just want to add to that that I think there are also like some of the most positive elements that I understand from masculinity is the like playful, like dumb luck.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and that's why it's a fun and kind of funny like stereotype to bring out in comedy, because comedy is all about making a parody of like certain things that we know to be true.
Yeah.
And you know, I think that there's like that's the kind of vulnerability that is, I think, a positive trait in masculinity. It's the like, yeah, let's do it. You know, like let's like go let's strap some like sticks to our feet and like race down the hill in the snow. Like somebody came up with that. You know.
No, I agree. And I think one thing that's going to mind.
Mom.
Yeah,
it wasn't mom.
No. No, probably wasn't. I think one thing that's really interesting because the words play come up a lot here, and I was thinking about that, and I'm like, yes, play. But like I actually think another word for play is adventure.
Yes.
And like that's something that like typically like the traditional like masculine role is to lead the adventure of like it's like play. I mean, it could be to the extreme. I mean, there's of course a whole spectrum there, but I think that's part of it too. And so yeah, I completely agree. For the record, I like followed up a little bit. Like I listened to Jeremy's like he's got a podcast episode where he goes into some more detail, and about 5 minutes in, he reveals, "Oh yeah, I've never actually watched Bluey. I just watched a 3-minute clip on YouTube." And I was like, "Okay, okay. Yeah."
Try to show yourself off as
Thank you for laughing at our studio audience.
Bluey,
Yeah, like,
Bluey expert.
I was like, all right. Yeah, you know, completely discarded your opinion. You have no idea what you're talking about.
Wait till you watch it by yourself.
Exactly.
Your kid went to the bathroom and never came back.
Exactly. Yeah. But I wanted to wait to tell you that until after you got a chance to respond to that.
That's really funny.
Yeah, because he's like a very firm opinion on it. And then I was like, oh, but you don't actually know what you're talking about.
It's built on nothing.
Yeah, and I understand actually because he's probably really honestly speaking against like stereotypical shows because a lot of them like that's kind of what you would expect.
Yeah.
But it's not a stereotypical show.
It's a really thoughtful show. Yeah,
it is.
And I think that's something that draws a lot of people into it.
Yeah.
And so I think what is like a moment that made you cry? Well, sorry, you're the host.
No, it's okay. I don't know that
You asked this earlier when we were like in the pre-interview. And I was like, somebody has to get to that.
Yeah, no, it's like I don't. Well, first of all, let me ask this first. Can you think of another kids show that's made you cry? And like
maybe Mr. Rogers.
Okay, yes, Mr. Rogers.
But again,
but not Daniel Tiger, which is
No.
the cartoon version of Mr. Rogers now,
No.
and it's not that. And at first, actually, I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Mr. Rogers is a great like emotionally depth. Like Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, it's like there's like so much emotional depth. There's so much like emotional intelligence. There's so much to learn from it. And then they made a cartoon version of it called Daniel Tiger, and I watched it and I was like, man, it lost so much of it. And I was like, I guess it's just because it's a cartoon.
No.
But Bluey is a cartoon.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And they still pull that back. I'm so glad you brought that up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's exactly it. And I think that's
Yeah.
one of the reasons Mr. Rogers was so successful.
Yeah.
Is because it was honestly Bluey's a slower show.
Yes.
It's
Even
so-
though it's 7 minutes long.
Yeah, but
yeah.
the plot moves a little slower. It's always focused on one thing. And
Yeah.
Mr. Rogers' episodes were the same way.
Yeah.
It was focused on
Slow
one
TV.
thing. It was about understanding what that person was experiencing
Yes.
and helping kids see that in themselves. And that was really the unlocking.
Yeah, when you said that, I remember. I remember the time I cried as an adult watching Mr. Rogers was a scene where he invites, I forget his name, but there was an officer. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And he was a black man,
Mhm,
and there was like a
yes.
whole like civil rights thing going on, and he invites him to come take his shoes off and sit in his yard and like put their feet in the water and just
I
like
remember that.
and just sit side by side and just talk. And it was like as a kid, I don't remember like that scene. It probably didn't mean anything to me.
Right.
But as an adult watching that again, I was like, I teared up. Yeah. So I'm glad you
Yeah,
brought up
like
Mr.
that's
Rogers.
a powerful
Yeah.
moment.
Yeah, he's
and
like-
he's making a statement to the entire culture.
He's like, let's just
Yeah.
sit here.
And
know?
all the kids were like you said, that wasn't like a big moment. You're like, he's just
Yeah.
Taking his shoes
taking
off.
his shoes off.
Yeah.
They're in the,
People-
they're in
Men
the
don't
kiddie
get
pool.
together and take their shoes off.
And put him in a
sit
kiddie
sit
pool.
by the-
Yeah.
sit in the water, you know?
Yeah. So now we've like talked about that. Can you think of another kids show other than maybe Mr. Rogers that's made you cry, or Bluey, of course?
There are there's this. I haven't watched it in a long time. But there's like this Christmas show. It's a cartoon. I think it's about an otter.
Okay.
They they want to, like, the kid really wants to get his mom something for Christmas, and they like can't afford it,
Oh.
and so he has to like sell one of his toys in order to buy the gift, and the mom has to sell something or has
Yeah.
to buy the gift for the kid, and something about like the thing that they sold like kind of canceled it.
Oh, so that's like the hair in the locket, like the old fable. I don't. You know if you know about that. There's like a husband and wife who both do that. She like.
yes, it's
yeah.
like that. So that's kind of the and it. Oh my gosh, I remember
Yeah.
like that just.
Yeah. So that happens. But now let's talk about Bluey. Like, can you remember a scene in an episode that made you cry?
Yeah.
Because they all make you laugh. Like every
Yeah.
episode, you laugh. Like it's a given.
The one
Yeah.
the one that makes me cry still is the one with the rain, and it's like kind of making a little stream, and the kid, making a little dam, and that one just like gets me. And it's like all whole quiet, like the whole episode is just music.
Yeah. That's a beautiful
Yeah.
episode. If I
Yeah.
remember correctly, it's like the mom is like, at first she's like doesn't want to get in the rain, like he's trying to pull her
Yeah.
out, and then the mom eventually, like goes out in the rain with her,
Yeah.
Yeah.
with her daughter to be like,
Yeah.
yeah, let's just play and let's just be here.
Yeah.
And she's obviously like visibly worn out as a mom in that
Yeah.
moment. Yeah.
And the
That's a
kid is
beautiful
like
scene.
pushing past to like bring things from the house to go and like
Yes.
keep building up this dam.
Oh, I forgot about that. The mom like tries to stop Bluey from
Yeah.
running. It's like, no,
It was
don't go
like-
in the house. You're wet. Like.
Mud on the floor, everything.
But again, like it's a silent episode. Like I
Mhm.
think the whole thing's music. That's a beautiful episode.
it's really good.
What about you, Robbie?
I
Yeah.
love that's like it's become its own art form.
Yes. Yeah.
Or they're communicating in these different ways. I can't even remember the specific episodes.
Yeah.
But I just know, like I'll be watching it and you get like that welled up feeling.
Yeah.
And then the next one's fun. And
Yeah.
then the next one's fun. And then the next one I'm
Yep.
like,
Yeah.
so I don't have a specific example, but
I
yeah.
think I will say I was really confused with the first episode. I actually think that might have been a poor choice because the first episode is called Magic Xylophone, and they're playing this game where like they tap the thing and like you freeze.
yeah.
And so I thought I was like, oh, it's like a kids show about like magic. Like I thought they were actually like almost like the teenage. What was it, Sabrina the Teenage
Oh,
Witch?
yeah.
I literally thought the first episode I was like, oh, that's like.
There's magic.
I didn't realize it
yeah.
was like they were just goofing off because they treat it like very seriously. Like if you tap the xylophone, like they freeze.
Yeah.
And so I was only until I watched the second episode that I was like, oh, that was a game. They're just goofing off. Like they're just talking
Yeah.
dogs. There's nothing magical or weird about that.
It's just talking dogs.
Yeah.
I have to remind myself
yeah.
this isn't real.
yeah. Robbie, have you? I think you said you haven't watched The Sign yet, right? Have you? That's the 40-minute episode.
I have not.
Well,
And when did this come out? How did we miss this?
like very recently, there was man, I don't know how much I want to spoil for you guys, but like, it's so good. But we have to at least acknowledge it if we're gonna have like a 1-episode podcast about Bluey.
Yeah.
So I think it's the end of Bluey. I think it's the last episode.
Mm.
But like that's not, they haven't confirmed that. So they had like seasons 1, 2, and 3, which they released in like chunks, and then they just had one episode randomly that came out, and it was like 5 seconds long, and I forget what it was called, but they're playing this game in that episode. It's like a regular sized Bluey episode, but it came out by itself, which was kind of weird. And it's like a regular sized Bluey episode, but they're playing this game where like the mom Chili is pretending to be someone who wants to like buy their house, and like
yeah.
Bandit's pretending to be like a realtor who's like really he's like trying to talk himself up in the mirror, and like he's like I gotta sell this house today. He's kind of like doing this like
Motivational.
yeah, kind of like what's the guy from SNL, the old SNL, if you know what I'm talking about, like Stuart Smalley. He's just like,
yeah.
he used to like look at the mirror and be like, you're good enough, and gosh darn, people like you. Yeah. So Bandit's doing things like that to talk himself up, and then go out to try to sell the house, but it's a game. Like he's like Chili's pretending to, and then the kids, Bluey and Bingo, are pretending to be like grannies who like don't want to move away, and so they keep like pretending to be ghosts, like pretending the house is haunted. It's a really cute scene. But at the end of it, you realize, like, at the end of it, they're like, that was a fun game. And then Bandit's like, you realize we can't do that every time. And you realize, like, oh, like, this is how they're processing the fact that, like, they're getting ready to sell the house. Yeah.
Yeah.
You make me cry.
yeah. So, yeah.
That's it. You found it, John.
That was it. But then it follows up with, these Blue episodes are like 6 or 7 minutes.
Yeah.
The next episode comes out. It's 42 minutes long, I think. It's like
Wow.
42 minutes long.
It's the Bluey movie.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was like. I was like, it's the Bluey movie. We had
Yeah.
planned it with the kids. We're like, get some popcorn, get some pizza. We're gonna sit on the couch and watch it. It's beautiful. I won't ruin it for you. But honestly, I'm really curious what you guys think about it, because I will say, the episode's about the whole family, but so much of it centers around the dad trying to figure out like, okay, I'm trying to provide for my family. Like, there's this better job, and like the kids don't want to move, but like he's just like, but like I want you guys to have a better life. That's the phrase. I want you to have a better life. But they're like, we love our life, and it's just a whole like tension around that. And it's a really beautiful episode. I mean, I just like my wife and I just held each other on the couch and just like sobbed like so many times.
Well, it sounds like Bandit needs to move into the creator space and work from home.
Yes. Well, I won't give you away the end of the show. It's really good, but
We just have to get Bandit to come to Craft and Commerce next.
yes, exactly. Actually, okay, I want to share this is like, so I want to share one fact about Bluey, and then I'd love for us to wrap up by each sharing how Bluey has like changed your family culture. Like if there's anything that you've taken from that. But one fun fact about it is that the voice actors for like the parents, they've been on the Tonight Show, like they do media tours, like that kind of stuff. That's a great episode if you just like watch them. It's weird because you're like, you're not talking dogs. They're like on the Tonight Show talking to Jimmy Fallon, you know. But the kids, the voice actors for the kids are completely anonymous. They protect their identities because the show's so make it famous. They're like, no, they're just kids. Like one day, sure, we'll have some 19-year-old TikToker be like, it's bingo, you know.
So that means any 19-year-old TikToker.
Yeah, anybody can. yeah,
Sorry.
exactly. But I think that's like a really cool. Like as a dad too, I'm just like, that's a great way to like have a kids show. We also like protect the kids behind it. So that's just a fun fact that I learned that I was like, that's pretty cool.
I love it. I love it.
But then I love to ask, you know, and would you share first, like, what's an impact that like the show Bluey has had on your family culture?
Well, one of them is that if my wife and I get into like an argument, we make up in front of the kid, or in front of our child.
Yeah.
You know, we make sure that we can show that like we can have a range of emotions,
Yes.
and that emotions are okay, and that it's okay to get into an argument. But the important thing is that we can make up, or we can turn it into like a game, or we can be like, you know, kind of just like mess around with each other, or hit each other with pillows or something, and just kind of diffuse the energy with play and with, you know.
Yeah.
That actually has affected our family culture in a really positive way.
That's beautiful.
That's great. I love
What about
it.
you?
Yeah, for us, it's been that leaning in, that saying yes more often, which, you know, it's like positive to negative comments, like 5 to 1, 5 to 1, 5 to 1. And then, but to be able to do that in action instead of just words, to be like, yeah, I'm going to do this with you right now.
Yeah.
Is it the end of the world if I fall down on the ground and have fun with you?
Yeah.
Like, my email's still going to be there.
Yeah.
It's not going anywhere. And just saying yes more often has just helped my kids just open up.
I love that.
Yeah.
We have similar stories like both of that, but a different one I want to share is just because you brought up dance mode earlier that episode. I think like that episode is like indicative of a theme of where like the dad, like he's just like, I don't really want to like yes, I made a deal with my kid, I will dance, but like not in front of like it's gonna be embarrassing, like doing it in front of like random people who like like let's be goofy at home, but like not in public. And that's like a common theme that comes up in the show, but dance mode is like one of the most dramatic examples of that, where he has a moment and he like literally yells out, I'm doing this for my kids, and then just starts like dancing in public. Which, by the way, like my kids have that on like the Spotify Kids app, and the song that he dances to, if you play it from like the Bluey soundtrack, it starts with him yelling, "I'm doing this for my kid," and then the whole song kicks in, which is pretty fun. But I think that's one thing that's shown up for me is like just being more like I've always been kind of playful with my kids. Bluey's definitely upped that of like me just like goofing off with my kids, but like including in public. That I'm just like. I think like Bluey kind of gave me permission. I don't know. I needed it to like just goof off with my kids, and I don't really care who's watching. I actually kind of hope that they're inspired by seeing us goof around and love each other. So that's one thing that's affected us.
I love it.
It's also, I will say, caused us to just like think about the other things we consume differently and like how can we use this to affect our family culture. So, do you know the song "Tub Thumping" by Chumbawamba?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay. I love that you both knew it by the title because everyone knows the song, but no, usually people are like, never heard of it, and I'm like, I get knocked down, but I get up again. You ain't never gonna keep me down. I get knocked down. Yeah. Then everyone's like, oh, that song. Yeah. So we at our family, like we like the kids say it too. Like we'll remind each other that we are tub thumpers. And so like well, that's like our family thing is like well, and that kind of it came from the song, but it kind of came from Bluey of us going like. Who are we? And it's like, oh, we're tub thumpers. So it's like something doesn't work out. It's like, well, remember, we're tub thumpers. So like, oh yeah, I get back up again.
It's a family motto.
Yeah.
I love it.
I love it. So like, I'm gonna give Bluey credit for that, even though Chumbawamba also gets credit too. Yeah. So
that is definitely a theme. It comes up again and again, you know, because we're tough, like, you know,
Yeah, exactly. So any final thoughts, and then we'll wrap up.
Well, I can't wait to watch the sign.
Yeah.
That,
Whew.
that
Bring the
good
tissues.
I know.
Yeah.
We're gonna have to
40-minute
plan a whole
long
night now.
episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know what I'm doing on the way home.
Yeah, you got to preview.
Guy
it.
on
Yeah.
the airplane next
Yeah.
to me, he's gonna be crying. Right
Yeah,
in the
exactly.
seat right next to me.
Where's the kid?
Where's the kid? You're like, what? He's right there on the show. Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah. No, that's amazing. Yeah. Anything else you want to add, Robbie?
No,
Yeah.
it's just great talking to. It's so funny that 3 adult men can
Yeah.
sit in a room and talk
Talking
about a cartoon
Yeah.
and just talk about how much we love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
the,
this
and,
all started-
and the impact it has.
This all started because our host Nathan Barry was like never watched Bluey, had no interest, and we were like, oh man, like we were
Oh.
like, yeah. This is before you walked in. We were like, we gotta tell, yeah. So we'll send this to Nathan right
We'll
away.
make him edit it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So go watch Bluey. That's the conclusion. Yeah, that's the call to action. Yeah. By the way, this show is sponsored by nobody. It's not sponsored by anybody, but Bluey, if you want to write a check, I mean, we'll take it. But
Yeah.
just go watch Bluey.
All right, and then big shout out to Kit Studios. As
Yes.
Well, so.
Yes, they also
Thank you.
actually like gave us free use of the studio
Yeah,
to record this Make Believe podcast. So we appreciate that. Kit.com, formerly ConvertKit. But yeah. All right, keep up the good work.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye. Bye. Bye. Wait, did I miss one? I think there's
Right.
yeah.
Dance
yeah.
mode.
yeah. Oh yeah, dance mode.